Yeah, so Carol, as I was asking, of course, there's a belief that if children are brought up in an environment where there's maybe a person who is abusing alcohol, or alcohol is being like brewed, like in your case, that they may grow up to also become addicts. I don't know whether there's any of your siblings who maybe turned into alcoholism, or did it affect you in any way?
Personally, it never affected because they somehow my grandparents, they were very protective. In fact, even those who would drink, it's like the real thing would never be brought in the house. There was like a shed where they used to sell, and then after that it was taken to the back to the river. So there was no point where maybe we would take. And there's none of my siblings who is an addict, but there's one who turned years later. After, I think it was after around, from the age of around 18 years, that's when he started drinking. But personally, I never got to that point. In fact, us, no one, we can't say that there's somebody who is really like a drunkard, but from now on. And maybe it started long way after he has already left home. And it has been also a struggle for him, but we thank God that every day things keep changing for good. Yeah.
Yeah, so we were at this point where your mom used to like do business and send money in the village.
Yeah, he would send those time we were when we were in primary school. He would send money for school fees, food. He would come like every end month, bring food stuff. Now the things, in up country we have the food, already food stuff.
Yeah.
But the things that we buy from the shop, now she would bring those things mostly on like almost every end month. Other times he would send by poster. At least we were fed, and we never went without clothing. She would supply us. But now during that time, even when she would bring us shoes, we can't go with them to school because other children don't have.
Yeah.
And they would be like, you are it's like you are proud because you have and others don't have. And then fast forward, the issue of being raised without a present mom and a father started affecting me by the time I was around 13, when I was almost winding primary school. When I would see other children, they really have a good relationship. When you have meetings, their parents would come to school. But in my case, it's only my grandmother who used to come. And then the man who was in my life was my grandfather, and he really loved me because I was very obedient. And then at some point when I was to join class 8, that is in January 1st of January 1996, that's when he passed on. And he was sick for like almost 2 years. And me and my grandmothers, we were the caregivers. When my grandmother was not present, I'm the one who was, supposing she went to the market or maybe she went to the farm, I was the one who was taking care of my grandfather. Everything that he needed. Sometimes he would maybe want to pee, and then he can't go to the toilet. And unfortunately, one of his legs was amputated. So we would struggle with him, maybe bring a potty.
So that means he had diabetes.
I think I don't know, but it wasn't clear. But
Yeah,
by the time he died,
okay, definitely most of the amputations are done because of the diabetes.
I don't know, probably, but
of course, from
that
my nutrition knowledge tells me the amputations mostly are done because of diabetes affect. So I was asking, just before you get to that point, how your grandfather died, you said you were affected. Maybe just explain to us or to the viewers, what is this you're talking about being affected?
I was really affected because
I'm thinking it's your identity issues.
Of course it is.
So how was that experience for you?
You see, now when other children were taking pride in their fathers, I had a grandfather, and he was so much like into our lives and in my life that there was a time my grandmother was sick, and since that his leg was amputated, he would take care of us. He would cook for us. He would using firewood. He would cut the firewood, he would sit on a small chair, and then he would pasua the kuni, and then he would do the cooking. There's no day that we went home during lunchtime and found there was no food. So that really somehow gave me an identity. And then when he passed on, I was like, I'm left alone. I don't have somebody to look up to. You know, the father figure.
Yeah.
Every time you look at him, and I was like, oh, we are protected. So it was kind of very, it was a very traumatizing moment, because I remember when he died, he was never taken to a mortuary. They did the traditional. I don't know, they put charcoal and sand. I don't know how they do it. Then a doctor comes, he injects the body. And you know, for the whole week that my grandfather stayed at home, I used to go in that house, and I would open him and then remove the covering, and then I would stand and watch him, and I was feeling so much contented. And but by that time, I was some few months to 14 years, because and I would feel so good. I would take the lamp during the night, place it there, check him, see he's fine. But when he was buried, it really affected me. I think I was feeling it's like he's asleep and then he will come back. But then after the burial, that thing really started hitting at me, and somehow I was able to overcome. And maybe if I would go back at when I was in class 7, that is 1995, I gave my life to Christ. I went to a church. We were Catholics. I had gone all the classes that Catholics attend, and I was feeling like there's a vacuum that needs to be filled. And then when I went to that church, and then the preacher, the preacher was preaching, there's somehow I was feeling in my heart, there's that vacuum that is like it's being filled.
Yeah.
But I didn't. When the preacher asked whether there's somebody who wants to give their life to Christ, I did not raise my hand, because I knew my grandmother, how strict she is with us going to church and in Catholic. So I had to go back. That Sunday I did not give my life to Christ. I went back and I asked for permission. I asked my grandmother, I want to get saved, can I go? And then she said yes, there's no problem. So I went the following Sunday, and I was prayed for. I gave my life to Christ, and then something started shifting. So I would like, sometimes I'm so much motivated. Sometimes, some days I'm so much down, and eventually it went on and on. So by the time my grandfather was passing, I had already given my life to Christ. And I remember there was a time we would be having youth camps. My grandmother would give me the permission, but when it comes the actual day of going, she would say that you are not going. And I would really cry. And then my grandfather would say, because you told her she will go from the first day, let her go.
Yeah.
So you can see this person is protecting you, then all of a sudden he's no more.
Yeah.
And it really affected me, but because now I had already had a relationship with God, I was kind of able to stand.
Yeah.
And now I was able to move. In fact, when he died in January, and then the same month I was joining class 8. But I think it's also affected my result, because most of the time I would sit and look at, by that time we had graduated from the heart. And used to live in a mud house, but it was modern because it had iron sheets. And it was 2 rooms. So I used to see
It's not the round hut with all the.
We had already now graduated. Now we were living in a modern house. And I would go check at his bed and find that he's not there, and it would really affect me. I would go behind the house and start crying, and I would really cry. And by that time, my elder sister had already left home. She was in high school. So it was me and my younger sister and a son to my firstborn sister. So we used to be 3 of us, and now with my grandmother. But eventually things turned up well, and I was able to transition from primary to high school.
Before you transited to high school, I've just heard about your relationship at this point with your grandmother and your grandfather. And it seems like you were inclined to your grandfather more. this mom who keeps coming every other month, what was your relationship with your mom at that point?
At that point, my relationship with my mother was very good because every time she comes, in fact, there is a place we used to stand because she would tell us, I will come at a certain date. You know, there was no telephone communication, there were no mobile. So on that particular day, it's like you used to know if somebody is coming from Nairobi, those are like 8 hours. So by a certain around 5-4, she would be coming. So there was a place we used to stand, and then you know she has a turban. She's Mkorino. And then we would see a turban from a distance, and we would all run towards. And in fact, the whole village used to know because we would keep running.
Yeah.
We used to call her Mamua Nairobi. And we would all run towards her. But now when she stays, because she would stay like 2-3 days, when it's her time to go back, like every time during those 3 days I used to sleep with her. I was like, no, how is she now living? But because we are already used, and I knew that she will eventually leave, I would sleep with her. I'm like told, no, now you have to go to the shop, it's already time, you wake up. You know, because I feel like I don't want to leave her. She was very supportive, and she would provide everything that we needed. Apart from now, that aspect of maybe wanting to know the father, which came later. You know, maybe I think it's the time when teenagers want to know their identity. That's when that thing really started. But during the other times, everything was okay, and she would provide for us, for my cousins. In fact, she was the sonko, because she would bring us clothes, ours and our cousins, because we used to live in the same compound. And it was.
So your relationship with your mother was more of provision.
Yes, because we never used to
more
stay together.
More provision and not definitely that attachment of this is my mom and I can share with her my issues when I'm down. I can go cry to her.
In fact, in my life, I think I've never shared anything with anybody. I've never shared anything with anybody. In my low moments, I would cry, and sometimes I would go to bed, cry myself to sleep, and that is it.
Good. So high school, college, marriage.
High school, I think it was the most tempting moment, because when I went to high school, I don't know how, but I think the subconscious mind, I turned up to have all my friends, they were from single parents. I don't know how, but I think I never wanted somebody who would share their stories, how they are relating with their father.
About the father, you didn't like to be close to them.
There are some times that even today we meet with those girls and we just laugh in the street. We used to say when we don't have classes, we used to say in a corner, we lie in the ground and we start sharing our stories. What is this? And we would really talk. And sometimes, because somehow...
You're in a boarding school now?
Yeah, I'm in a boarding school in Machakos, and it was a very poor school. It didn't have a lab, but the reason why I went to that school, I was called to a better school in Kitale, but my mother would not afford. So I was taken to a private Indian school, who I think they were in business. But I really thank God because I managed. But now during that, the 4 years, they were very hectic. I remember when I joined Form 1, I didn't have a shoe. I was bought rubber shoes. And during that time, I think, was it in 1997 when we had El Nino? And every time when I'm going to class, by the time, the kapad you're passing, kuna grass, so by the time you go class, you're already wet, your shoes, because you're wearing rubber shoes. In fact, I was bought a leather shoe, I think when I was in Form 2. Because by that time, my elder sister was also in school. And I remember my mother had requested me to resit class 8. But I think I had so much faith. And I told her, if God is able to provide you money for my elder sister, I don't know whether it was foolishness or what, he will also be able to provide for me.
And it was young faith.
Yeah, and when I told my mother that, she did not have an option. She looked for a school that she can afford. And I thank God that she took me to school, because if I never went to that school, even now that I'm in school, I would not have gone to.
Yeah.
So I really commend her for that, and even for, because by the time I'm in school, my elder sister is in school, my younger sister is in school, and my nephew is in school, because she's the one who was taking care of us. But now we used to stay at home
Yeah.
with my grand, because even when I was in high school, every time we would close school, I used to go home. That is in Kitale. And then now, every time we go for midterm, children will come back, and we're in the cubes in the dormitory. They would start sharing their stories, how maybe they went on a weekend, they were taken maybe out by their fathers, things they were bought. You know, when they would start giving the stories. Me and my other friends would just go. We don't have stories to share. And maybe they have their boxes are full, they've come, they have a lot of shopping, they have, by those time, in fact in that school, we never had limits, whether what you would carry. So we see people, they have 5 liters juice, they have a carton of biscuits. And here, I think I used to buy for 10 shillings.
Yeah.
That the one that I would eat in the vehicle.
Maybe just speaking to those children, because we see this a lot. And I know even those children, when they were talking about their fathers and maybe I would call it bragging about the things that they have been done to, or the many maybe outings that have been taken by their parents, I believe they might really not have intentionally wanted to hurt you, but it used to hurt you. And I know it hurts people even now, and because most of the people's self-esteem is affected by such things, especially children at that age. So as a parent now, because definitely your children have a father, they have the basic needs, what would you advise parents to tell their children so that they're able to accommodate other people? Because I see it a lot, that aspect of someone almost bragging and making the other person feel very low about themselves.
What I would say is that most of the time when the children are saying, they're just saying. They don't know whether, they're just, it's like they want to show my father is a hero, your father is not. And when somebody is there who doesn't have the subconscious mind, so when you start talking, they start thinking like you are hurting them intentionally. What I would say is that maybe parents can talk to their children, let them understand that even I don't know, but sometimes I look at it that even having a father, it's a blessing and a privilege, because we have thousands, so many children. Others are in streets, they don't have somebody to look up to. Others, maybe their father they had, but their father has already passed on. What I can say is that parents can mentor and can even train their children to accept others, and to accommodate others, such that don't go saying, even if we went where or we eat what, it's not a must, you don't have to share. Let it be in your life, but because you might say and hurt somebody else who doesn't have that privilege. Maybe you went for an outing, maybe you went for a holiday, and when now you come sharing somebody to another kid, going to a holiday is a vocabulary. They even don't know what it means. So it's very important that even those children will be able to accommodate others and to love them. And to
now good. Sorry, I think and to do what? Sorry.
It's just about accommodating and being able, there's a way, even when children are related, they're able to identify. Like I would see sometimes my son would come to me and tell me somebody in class did this, and then you're able to tell them, no, maybe they're going through something at their place, maybe, and then sometimes he would come and tell you, so and so in school, he was saying that he doesn't have a father, and then I would tell him, it's good, now what you have learned from your father, you can share with them, but don't keep telling them about your father, because they're also going through a crisis. And I would, in fact, I would like to let them understand some things are just blessings from God.
Good. So I just wanted a quick question on what was your biggest challenge in high school, and in the environment you were in and the challenges you were going through, what was your biggest challenge and what was your biggest achievement in high school?
My biggest challenge was lack of school fees. In fact, most of the time I was out of school. Like in a whole term, a term of 3 months, I would be in school for 1 month. Because when we would be sent home for school fees, I would stay like for almost a whole month. Then I come with half. Then I stay like 2 weeks. Then I'm sent back home. So what I used to do, every time I'm sent home for school fees, I used to carry all my books. And I would be studying at home and make sure that by the time I'm coming back to school, I will come like on a Sunday, then we're beginning our exams on a Monday, and that was a routine.
Yeah.
In fact, I was already used to that, and every time we would sit for an exam, I was always at the top of my class. Unfortunately, the school did not have facilities, because every time I would sit for an exam, I would come out with a C, and I was the leading in the whole class, and that was quite an achievement. Then another thing is about serving God in school. When I was in Form 2, that is when I joined the CU, and for the whole year I was just a member. When I was in Form 3, I was the chair lady for the CU, and I was able to serve the whole when I was in Form 3. By the time I was in Form 4, there was another brother who also got saved, and now he took the role, and then I was the assistant. I would coordinate for when you have a weekend challenge. I would preach in the assembly. In fact, I would everything like a church. I would coordinate everything. Sometimes I would lead. The only thing I never used to do is to read praise, worship, because that is not my line. But all the other things we would organize for weekend challenges. Quite a number of schools would come. I would be the one who is leading. I would coordinate with the CU patron, and it was quite, in fact, during the time that I was in high school, if you would come in school and ask a Form 1, Caro, they would definitely tell you, because I was that vocal as much as the word of God is concerned. In fact, sometimes I laugh. There was a teacher who used to smoke, and every time I would get to the staff room, the teacher would put off the cigarette, and they would start making jokes that I can't smoke when Caro is here. And imagine I was a teenager. But because of the power of God and how committed I was, and then there were some things that I really wanted to break, and I had already known that being like having a relationship with God is the only who has power to break some things. So I was so much involved into that. I remember there was a time when I was in high school, there was a strike, and so when it was being planned and it was ready to be done that evening, I knew about it. So when I was told about it, I went in the dormitory. I locked myself and I started crying. And the reason why I was crying is that when the strike, when finally it will be successful, we will be sent home. Now I'll go home, then I'll not have money to come back. I still have fee balance. Now when there's a strike, nobody's allowed back to school, and we already have balance. So I started crying. And then I think it happened, and when the culprits were being taken, one of the girls went and said that even Caro was aware, and she was praying about it for it to succeed. And then the headmaster said, I know Caro, and she can never do that. In fact, she is the one who was giving my testimony. I was never called, and I was never even asked any question. So I was getting the feedback from the people who are going in the staff room. And that thing also really helped me, because I remember there was a time I was so much down. I didn't have my shopping was all done. I didn't have pocket money, and then it was people were breaking for midterm. I would not go for midterm, because if now I go for midterm today, and then next week when they come back they're being sent home for school fees, what will happen? So the money that I have, let me keep it, that I'll have fare to go to collect fee balance. So on that particular day, I checked, I opened my box, there was nothing. In fact, I think they only had a small kiwi that was remaining, and I felt so bad. So at that very moment, I felt like I'm a burden to my mother. So I wrote a letter. I think I wrote it in the morning when people were breaking. I gave it to a girl who used to stay in the neighborhood. I wrote a letter to my mother, and I told her that I wish I know my father,
Mhm.
because I would not be a burden to you. In fact, I never told her what I don't have. I told her that the money that I need, maybe my father would provide. Please, if I'm a burden, I was feeling like I'm the cause.
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
and I gave the letter to a friend of mine. She took it to my mother, and up to date, my mother have never asked me. My mother have never asked me about that letter. Then what I did, the same day in the afternoon, I went, opened my box, I looked, there was nothing. Because I had already had a relationship with God.
Yeah.
I told him, because now you are my father, and we have agreed. I think it was in Form 2. I told God, from today, I had gone for a morning devotion that day, and I told God that you are my father from today onwards, and I never want to know about the earthly father. So that particular day in the afternoon, I went, opened my box, there was nothing, and I told God, because you are my father, I want you to give me everything that I need. And that was it. So I went washing and everything. Then later in the afternoon, there's a girl who was visited, and when she came in Form 1, I was given when her mother left her in my care, because I went to look for her bed. So every time I would keep checking whether she's doing okay, if there are people who are harassing her. In fact, people used to fear me so much, because like when we're having morning devotion, I used to wake like the whole school when we are praying. So even the notorious boys. So anybody who would be like want to monolize her, she would come and tell me, and then I would go to that person and tell her you're not doing the right thing, and that would be the end of that. So she went and shared it with the parents. So when the parents came, they wanted to see me. So they came, they asked me, how are you doing? Are you fine? I said yes. And they were like, why didn't you go for the midterm? I said no, I didn't want to go. Then they tell me, let us go to the market. So they went and bought me everything that I needed for the day.
Wow.
And then, so when we came from the market, I was like, wow. I packed everything in the box, and my box was full. And I was like, this dad is an awesome dad. How can you tell him? And then he does that. He does it instantly. And that really boosted me. And there's a shift that really happened from there. And from that time, anytime I would have maybe like the struggle about the school fees, I would tell, please dad, I don't have another one that I can go to. Please come and intervene. And it was awesome. He's been faithful from that time. Yeah, and I've seen him do great things in my life.
That's a powerful story.
Yeah.
For high school life. I'm almost wondering, were you like 25, 30-year-old when you were there?
No.
And at times you, of course, we also limit God. We even limit our potential.
Yeah.
Because I'm imagining you were an influence in the school, you influenced the teachers, you were able to influence your fellow students, and this is even a mixed school.
Yeah, it was a
regardless
mixed school.
of the situation you were in. So it really says that then once we know Christ and we have put him at the center of our lives, regardless of who we are or where we are or the limitations that we are facing, it's like Christ stands out for us.
Yes. And
much, Carol, for your being candid about your story. I believe someone out there is going to pick something from this. And my prayer is that regardless of that which is limiting you in your life, it may be a job, it may be the family background, it may be poverty, whatever it is, that God is going to enable each and every one of us to be able to overcome the limitation. Because I've realized what limits us a lot is that voice that keeps telling us that you are not good enough.
yes.
You cannot make it. But the moment you come to the realization, connect with yourself, accept self, and once you've connected with yourself, then you've been able to connect with God, who is the ultimate. He's the one who understands us. He knows us, why we are here. He knows why we were created. So definitely the moment we connect with ourselves and with God, He changes our story. And just like Carol's life has been changed, I believe your life will be changed.
Sure.
So God bless you so much, and thank you for listening to us.
Thank you so much. Nothing is impossible if you believe and if you're committed to that. Be fearless, be shameless, and create your own environment. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much.